The garlic sitting in your kitchen right now contains almost none of the compound everyone credits for lowering blood pressure. It isn't in there yet. You have to break the clove to make it. And once you make it, you've got about 10 minutes before it starts falling apart. That's not a marketing quirk. That's chemistry, and it changes how you'd use garlic at all. 4 things. What garlic actually does to the inside of a blood vessel, the specific molecule that does it, and where it comes from. What the human trials measured when they gave people garlic for weeks, and the part left out of every Eat Garlic for Your Heart post, how long any of it lasts. Start with the vessel itself, because everything else hangs off it. The inside of every artery you have is lined with a single layer of cells called the endothelium, the wallpaper on the inside of the pipe, basically. And that wallpaper isn't passive. It releases a gas called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide tells the muscle wrapped around the artery to relax. Relaxed wall, wider pipe, lower pressure. That's the whole idea. When people say garlic is good for your blood pressure, this is the machinery they're gesturing at, usually without knowing it's there. So does garlic actually touch that machinery? In isolated artery experiments, yes, and specifically through that nitric oxide pathway. Researchers put garlic extract and pure allicin onto pre-tightened rat arteries. The vessels relaxed, hard, up to around 90%. Then they stripped out the endothelium, or blocked nitric oxide production, and the relaxation dropped right off. That's the tell. Garlic isn't forcing the muscle open by brute chemistry. It's leaning on the vessel's own nitric oxide system, the same lever your body already uses. There's a second lever, and it's stranger. Garlic's sulfur compounds get handed to your red blood cells, and the red blood cells turn them into hydrogen sulfide, yes, the rotten egg gas, which is itself a signaling molecule that relaxes vessels. A team at the University of Alabama at Birmingham tied that red blood cell handoff closely to how much the vessels relaxed. So 2 overlapping routes. Nudge the nitric oxide system and generate a second relaxing gas through your own blood cells. The same lever your body pulls when you exercise, in fact. Garlic just gives it a small nudge. That's the mechanism. It's real, it's measurable in a dish, and it's genuinely a bit clever. So the vessel relaxation is real. Hold on to that 90% number, because the human results are going to look very different, and the gap between them is the whole point. Now, where does the active molecule even come from? Because this is where most advice goes wrong. Whole garlic doesn't contain allicin, not a meaningful amount. What it contains is a stored amino acid called allicin, sitting in one compartment of the cell, and an enzyme called alliinase, sitting in another. They never meet while the clove is intact. That's deliberate. It's the plant's defense system, loaded, but not fired. Crush, chop, or chew the clove, and you rupture the compartments. The enzyme meets the allicin, and within seconds it starts producing allicin. Allicin, the pungent compound that makes raw garlic bite. Chewing raw does it too. That sting on your tongue is the allicin forming in real time. No damage, no allicin. A whole clove swallowed intact is, for this purpose, a much weaker thing. Here's the part that should change what you do. Heat destroys the enzyme, so if you crush garlic and throw it straight into a hot pan, you kill the alliinase before it's finished the job, and you get a fraction of the allicin you could have had. The fix costs nothing, takes no equipment, and adds no time you weren't already spending. Crush or chop the garlic and let it sit for about 10 minutes before it hits heat. That resting window lets the enzyme run to completion, so the allicin is already formed and far more stable to cooking. That's it. That's the whole trick. And nobody can sell it to you, which is exactly why you rarely hear it framed as the thing that matters. It's the difference between a clove that fights back and one that goes in mild and does almost nothing. If this saved you from buying a $50 odorless high-potency capsule, send it to one person you know, the one who drops garlic straight into hot oil every single time. That one habit is quietly wasting the compound they think they're eating. So break the clove, wait 10 minutes, and you've made the molecule. Now the clock is already running against you. This is the part that gets left out. Allicin is unstable. It is not a compound that hangs around. Once it forms, it immediately starts breaking down into other sulfur compounds. And the timing is quick. Allicin peaks around 10 minutes after crushing. Then it degrades. In water outside garlic's own comfortable acidity, it can be largely gone within a couple of hours. Its half-life, the time for half of it to disappear, is measured in hours under good storage, and far less when it's warm or wet. So the picture of garlic as a stable supplement you're topping up, that's wrong. The freshly made active form is a flash in the pan. Sometimes literally. But, and this matters, the breakdown products aren't nothing. Allicin decomposes into compounds like diallyl trisulfide. And those are exactly the sulfur molecules your red blood cells convert into hydrogen sulfide. So even as the allicin itself vanishes, part of the effect is being handed downstream. That's why aged garlic extract, which contains almost no allicin at all, still shows effects in trials. It carries a different set of stable sulfur compounds. The allicin is the headline. It's not the entire story. So what happens in an actual human over weeks is a different question entirely. And it's the one that decides whether any of this is worth your time. Here's where I get unimpressed. In a dish, garlic relaxes a vessel by 90%. In people, the numbers are small. Real and worth having, but small. A randomized trial of aged garlic extract in patients whose pressure was high and not controlled by their medication found the top number about 10 points lower over 12 weeks compared with placebo. That's a genuinely useful drop if you're that specific patient. But look wider. A meta-analysis pooling 108 trials across more than 7,000 people found an average systolic reduction of about 4 points. A controlled trial of an optimized aged black garlic extract found under 2 points, alongside a measurable rise in nitric oxide. 2 points, 4 points, 10, if you were high and uncontrolled to begin with. The counter-argument writes itself. If the effect is that tiny, why bother? Because for the right person, 10 points off the top number is the same league as a low-dose drug. That's the honest range. Now notice what it's not. It's not the 90% from the dish. And it's not a replacement for a blood pressure drug. The mechanism is real. The effect in a normal person is modest. And it's largest in exactly the people who already have elevated pressure. If your blood pressure is already normal, the trials mostly show it doesn't do much. That part rarely makes the thumbnail because it doesn't sell anything. And the older evidence agrees on the shape of it. A meta-analysis going back to the 1990s found reductions that were statistically real but modest. That consistency across 30 years is actually the reassuring part. It's not a fluke. It's just small. It also flagged that a lot of the trials were short and shaky. Decades on, the story hasn't changed much. Small, real, and dependent on who you are. So how long does the effect last in you? Not the 10-minute allicin clock. The blood pressure change. The honest answer? Only while you keep taking it. These trials ran daily dosing for 8 to 12 weeks and measured the effect at the end. There's no good evidence garlic resets your blood pressure to a new level and then lets you stop. It behaves like an input, not a cure. Stop the input. And there's no reason to think it persists. That's the boring truth the exciting version skips. A small, ongoing nudge, not a switch you flip once. Which, honestly, is most of what real nutrition looks like once you strip the marketing off. None of this is medical advice, and I mean that literally. This is general information, not a diagnosis, and not a treatment plan. Talk to a doctor or a registered dietitian about your own situation, especially before you change any medication, and especially if you're pregnant or managing an existing condition. Garlic interacts with blood thinners, and it's just food is not a reason to skip that conversation. So here's where it lands. Garlic touches your blood vessels through two real pathways your body already runs. The active molecule is fragile, homemade, and gone fast. And the human payoff is a few points of blood pressure that only sticks around while you keep eating it. If you want the effect, the free version beats the $50 capsule. Crush fresh garlic, let it sit 10 minutes, eat it regularly, and expect a nudge, not a rescue. That's the mechanism. The boring answer is usually the real one.